So we don't actually have much on our plate today, but the features we've introduced since the version 1.18 that are pretty prominent, and actually most of the features, most exciting features, at least to me, are specifically being added in the version 1.20, which is currently being cooked. So we already have a release candidate, but it's undergoing excruciating quality assurance stage. And so here is our little agenda for today. I split it into 3 parts. So there are a few changes like on the server side and in the server functionality, and then there are specific features limited to the monitor, to user experience, and then there are also, I included a couple of new features related to facial recognition, because since the version Evo 1.18, we have released the new version of facial recognition module as well. But let's start with the server part. So some things are smaller, some things are larger, but I'll try to at least mention all of them. So in general, the difference between maybe even 1.17 and the current version. So in 1.17, the big change was that we introduced GPU decoding for the Evo monitor application, and then further in 1.18 and I also think 1.19, we've introduced optimizations, and that includes support for H.265. So that was like a big feature we were working on. So then the next big thing was server-side video analytics, which we now call EVA. So that's another girl's name, which stands for Evo Video Analytics. So at first we introduced some basic functionality like object classification, and then in those intermediate versions we've implemented a fuller functionality. We've added zones and counters, counting lines, and we've enabled rules for all those objects, and I'm going to show Evo to you today. And then the third big thing was use case handling. So this is the alarm pane in the client application, and we're going to see it too. And then finally, in the 1.20, in the current upcoming release, the big feature is the CrossLink technology, which enables us to use remote web and remote desktops as interactive devices in Evo, and I'm going to focus on this today. And there are a few smaller things, of course. So maybe at first I real quickly cover those small things so that we don't waste the time on them later, and also to make sure we don't forget them. So okay, so there were a couple of changes for OnVIF devices. So we've enabled metadata display for OnVIF devices. So all these blobs you see for video analytics, they are now supported for OnVIF cameras. So that goes through profile T. And I'm just gonna show you real quick where it's all being configured. So if we take an OnVIF device, I'm not sure we do have actual analytics on any of the OnVIF cameras right now, but I'm just going to show you the place where this happens. So on the OnVIF device, you're going to have the video analytics configuration, and there is this camera side metadata. So the setting itself is available for all cameras. So, but mostly this currently goes through OnVIF profile T. So that's OnVIF video analytics. And then also we've implemented imaging settings for on with. That's not a big change actually, but it was requested by some people. I'm not sure I have a picture in here. Let me select another one. This one. This one should be it. So the imaging settings were requested by like some people, but mostly these were requested by on-with profile S. So we underwent the compatibility check once again, because we did it earlier. We did it for some very early version of Evo, and we thought it would be a good idea to recertify the current Evo version for on-with profile S, and that's what we did. And this was one of the requirements, of course, one of the mandatory features of the current on-with S implementation. So now, just like in the good old Luxriot VMS times, you can go ahead and change the imaging settings for any camera, like make it brighter or something. So then I think this one is an earlier one. We've introduced NTP settings. It's not a big change actually. So it's just now it's possible to set up NTP server on the Evo side. So that's simply for people who don't want to go into the Windows time configuration. So you can simply define the NTP server through Evo interface. It's exactly matches the Windows settings, the operating system settings.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, then we've also added, I think that was 1.19 something, we've added support for external databases, specifically for audit events. It's also configurable through the central server, audit policy, no, sorry, external audit. So this is the next step to audit policy, and you can set up a database connection. I configured it once, and I'm not going to spoil it right now because I'm not really good with databases. I know this one is connected.
Databases suck. Yeah.
You get me.
I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of databases either.
In here, what you need to know, once you set up the database connection as described in the manual, then you can test it or reset the connection. You specify the number of days and number of records to be kept, and then you enable the whole thing by enabling it and clicking OK in the settings. So you can pre-set up the connection, but it's not going to work until you enable it explicitly in the settings. And it's kind of convenient because you can enable or disable it at any point without losing the settings.
Okay, that's nice. I think for audit, I will look into it a bit into more details, but I think there were some little informations that were missing from the audit tab. It would be nice if it was more. I don't remember right now. I'm not sure if it was like the names of the operators or something, because sometimes we get specific requests about audit. But this we can discuss over email. But yeah, that sounds good.
Oh, this we just need to track and then add it. So, yeah. Okay, no problem. So then another thing related to audit, but also related to the client application, that's a new, let me see it. This is a new security setting for the user, so that if the user attempts to connect and does so unsuccessfully, they get blacked out after a certain number of attempts. So for each user account, you can override the setting and enable this never locked account and bad password. So if you know that the girl Vera is really bad with remembering her passwords and she calls the support every day and says, please reset my password, then you can enable this setting for her. Otherwise, every user, if they so it's a server-wide policy here in the security policy. So how many maximum unsuccessful login attempts are allowed? Let me make that 3, for example. So then you just notify everyone that after 3 incorrect passwords, their user account will be disabled. And then in order to activate this user back, so the administrator needs to go into console, and they're going to open the user profile like here. And then this setting here, this check mark, it will be removed. So the user will be inactive due to those unsuccessful login accounts. And in order to re-enable that user, the administrator will need to activate him manually. So that's like a huge additional security level. Okay, then. So then other small things. So we'll switch to Eva shortly, and small things on the Evo monitor side. So yeah, like I said, there was an addition for GPU decoding, but that was minor. That was just adding the H265 decoding. And the rest of the GPU decoding was like earlier, is already history. But and we're also currently working on GPU decoding for Evo video analytics, but it's going to be a bit later because it takes time. And so then, like small things, video preview on mouse hover. Let me show you that. Hopefully, I've got some maps with cameras. So yeah, it's like this. So that's a pretty recent development. And so it wasn't there earlier. So I guess there are only a few cameras. Yeah, so here's our BMV club. And yeah, I think all the other cameras are inactive. So this one.
What is that temperature called? What is that device on the map?
This is also an indicator,
Okay.
like we did. So these ones are indicators, and I think they don't work.
Okay.
So this failover thing is also in an indicator, and this links to other maps. And this one is a user button that should probably do something, but I don't remember. And then snapshot export. There were 2 nice developments regarding snapshot export in different Evo versions. So one is an option to export snapshots as PDF, not just like JPEG or whatever format we use. And the other one, so the latest one coming in this 120 release, is the ability to add metadata and save the DWARP or digital PTZ, like zoom position, for snapshot export.
So by metadata, what do you mean by metadata? You mean the pause, or?
I mean by metadata, I mean pause and the video analytics blobs. So let me see if I've got any video analytics enabled somewhere.
I see there is a cat displayed on your client.
Yes, that's my cat.
Okay. So we have the counting here, yeah.
Yeah, but it's not enabled currently. Let me see which one. Oh God, which one was it? I think this one. So there's more of the cat. And
we did koala. Mateusz actually set up koala testing because we have a recording from a shop in Australia, from a pharmacy, where koala broke through. So we have a koala counting. It recognizes it as a dog, so it's good enough.
No, we certainly don't have koalas. I have made a film with little fishes, and I was going to test them as well because we don't have the fish class. And so I'm really curious what it does to them. So it's my Eva. So let me enable this one. So it's the video analytics, and we're going to enable it, and we're going to see if the cat is actually so this is the metadata, and if you export the snapshot, it should be now exported together with that blob. So that's the one. And it should be the same with past data. I should double check it. I only checked with the metadata myself, with those blobs.
And can we configure if we want it or not? Can it be turned on or off in the export options?
So currently it coincides with the client application. So if in the client application you have those settings set on, so it's in the it's in the viewport overlay. So all the buttons. Here is the VCA section. So these are pretty old settings coming from OpenVCA times. So everything that is set to always on or on if the viewport is selected, this metadata will be included. If something is set to always off, like for example, don't show me zones because I don't really care what the zones are, because I'm just an operator. Then if I turn off the zones, then they won't be included because, and that's also pretty straightforward. If you see that metadata in the client, then it's also going to be on the snapshot.
Okay.
And if you don't see it, if you turn it off, then it's not going to be there.
Right. Perhaps it will be good to, because I'm just thinking ahead. I'm just thinking ahead. In some situations, the clients will want to see the analytics, the metadata, but if they export the video, they would like to not have it. So just like with right now with video export, you see the post information, but when you export it, it's not there in some form.
Yeah, absolutely.
It would be nice to have the option to export without it, I think.
Yeah. So let me tell you the plan. So currently, we've implemented it in like the first version, so that everything that you see goes into the snapshot. What we're going to do next is to implement the same for the video export, and then we're going to add options for the export time, or whether the analytics and post data should be included or not.
Okay, makes sense.
So I think we're going to do that simultaneously. So in the next maybe minor or maybe next major version, so it's going to have both those settings and video export with metadata overlay. And speaking about digital PTZ, this was also like asked by end users. I remember, Yanis, remember when we went to some of the police departments or city councils here in Latvia, and they specifically asked that they need to be able to export a part, and that specific part where they have it zoomed in. So previously it wasn't available. And so right now, if you export the snapshot, so I'm testing it along. So yeah, now we do actually the zoomed in part. And it's also true for the warp, for fisheye dewarp, because it uses like the same setting. It's all on DPTZ setting in here.
This is great. This is really great because we had lots of questions about it.
Yeah, so like you see, not a lot of big features, a couple of big features, but also a lot of small, nice improvements.
Sometimes small features are big features,
Oh yes.
To quote Steve Jobs when he was presenting the first iPhone, and he was scrolling through contacts, which was the first experience of this kind, and somebody said, "You had me at scrolling." I think very similarly when we present to customers playback function that you can hover the mouse over the play button, and with your finger when you move the wheel it goes frame by frame. Also customers think this is really nice experience, the scrolling part for playback, and how smooth the playback is. It's a small feature, but by itself it's a selling point almost,
Yeah, it's also like you mentioned it, and it's not listed on my feature list here because it's an internal implementation. But we did some extensive optimizations for playback, so we do some in every version. And I also wanted to show you that just to remind you that in addition to hovering over maps, you can also hover over the timeline. And
Yeah, that's very nice. That's very
and
nice.
if there are
Generally speaking, the
bookmarks.
playback works quite well. We only see some decrease in performance, right, Mateusz, when the recordings are recycling. I think. Mateusz, do you have a
Yeah,
comment?
exactly. If the archive is full and it needs to like rewrite again the
Yeah.
archive, sometimes it just like jumps up like let's say 40%. But if we keep the threshold, it's fine. It's not a big problem. Yes, it's okay. But what about the playback and the maps? Can we export the video with the map?
Let me check, because we certainly do have. A couple of other things in the client application. So this one is pretty great. Personally, I love it. So this is the layout change history. So there are these arrows on top. So these allow you to go back in the change history. What is like you have a super layout with all the required cameras, and then you accidentally remove one, and you're like, oh damn, where's that camera? And instead of searching for that camera again, you can simply click undo here, and it remembers your last actions, so up to 50 actions in total. You can go back and forth, and that's also very good for like remote troubleshooting, for example, because like when I was working as a support engineer, so the first thing I did when I connected to a remote system that had monitor running, it had like 20 channels, and I needed to disable all the channels because I didn't want to overload the low bandwidth channel. And then I needed to restore those channels somehow for the operators. And so now it's possible to do this with a single click.
Yeah, that's nice. We like that feature too.
And one more regarding the archive playback. So apart from internal optimizations, I don't think I can show that on visual, but that's more of a not sure I have some example for you. So anyways, let me give you the theory. So in the settings, there is this automatic stream selection. So this one is good when you have a system with a lot of servers and a lot of failover cases and a lot of failover servers. So where it's a common case where when a camera is recorded on different servers over time, and you need to have a smooth playback experience for the operator. So if you want him to have like a single timeline for every server, because actually, the operator doesn't really care if the stream was recorded on this server, on that server, and yesterday it wasn't on failover. And in that case, if you remember, we have like a separate tracks under every server. And if we do, it's going to say in here under channels. So for each channel, it's going to say Street View PTZ primary, then primary on server name 2, primary on server name 3, in case there are recordings on different servers, including failover. And if you I don't currently have that situation, but if I did, and if I had this setting enabled, it would allow me to simply drag and drop this whole channel, like as usual, without caring which underlying tracks there are. And as I click the timeline, if I go to some other point in time where the recordings are on another server, then it's going to automatically switch the track. So the end user will simply see a solid timeline, and they are not going to know that the actual footage is coming from different servers.
That's a nice optimization feature.
We should have implemented that like from the very beginning, and I think that's also how it was intended to be from the very beginning, but it was somehow lost in transit, you know. Yeah, so these are like the small things. Oh God, how much time wasted on small things. So now the big things. Let me start with all the things first. So that's the alarm pane. The alarm pane is basically the list of bookmarks that have this alarm quality. It's hidden by default because we didn't want the users to be perplexed, and it can be enabled by this show alarm pane setting in the usability settings, and it's here on the right. So basically it's a list of different alarms. In a moment I'll also show you how to generate those alarms, but on the operator side, each alarm has so it's like a floating window. They can switch to live view from here, or they can also switch to instant playback from here. And I also think it's possible to drag and drop. Yeah, that's great. They've implemented this drag and drop for me. And also you can have you can change the operator can change the severity. Okay, this one is not very important. They can also change the status. Okay, this one is handled. They can also add a description. You can use Control Enter for adding comments. So it's like an actual chat in Evo monitor interface. So these comments, they appear as the operators add them. So this is like a real live chat between operators. And so the status is also reflected in here, and you can use filters to only show critical ones or only show the new ones. Don't show me the unhandled, the already handled ones. So it's a case management, the alarm case management for operators. And so on the technical side, what's behind this? What's behind the scenes? So behind the scenes, there are bookmarks. You can see in the timeline that these are actually generated bookmarks, and this means we can also search those bookmarks in playback using the bookmark. And I don't remember which event is causing this, but I think motion. That makes sense. I wanted to have as many bookmarks as possible, so that's motion event that triggers this bookmark. And so let's see what's behind the scenes. And behind the scenes, we have is a Street View PTZ. No, it's called Office Internal. So behind the scenes, yeah, so this is one more rule causing all the action. There is this special action type, which is pretty familiar for everyone. It's called create bookmark. So there were bookmarks also previously, but now there's an additional option for every bookmark to create an alarm. And this tick here means that this particular bookmark will not only go just silently to the archive, but it will also pop up on every workstation where it's accepted in this alarm pane. So based on the user filters.
This is very nice. We love this feature, and we also like the option for requiring a comment. So it's a pop-up, and the user has to provide feedback. You know, this is very nice as well. There was a tick box above there as well. It's very nice.
Yes. So this one, I just don't mention it because it was there earlier, starting from the initial bookmark implementation. So yes, indeed. So the bookmark, the automatic bookmarking, if it's created automatically based on some event, there is some default description, and which is used in case the user misses. So if the if the time runs out, or if the user closes it, so ignores it, if the operator went for a smoke and missed the alarm, then the default description is going to be used. And in case you create an alarm out of this bookmark, then the user will have an option to add as many comments as they like. So maybe some initial comment, and then they can go back to that case and review it, or some other user, some other operator can add some more information about it. Evo Video Analytics, of course. So you have probably seen the most of the analytics already, because it was on the previous release. So in the 1.19.1, you already have pretty much everything. So I'm not sure in how many details I need to cover this. So yeah, so you do know the video analytics engine. So I don't think I need to stop on this. Maybe a bit of explanations on the settings, maybe, if you need them. I also see that people sometimes have difficulties. That's our fault, the way we've implemented those counters. So maybe worth mentioning regarding those counters. One important thing to remember, that these counters here, these are just visualizations. These are not actual counters, and so you need to bind them to some of the existing counters. And then there are two counter types. There are counters and VCA counters. And those VCA counters are specifically counters that indicate the current number of objects in the zone. So this is the zone, and we can create a new zone counter for it. The number of objects in the zone. Create, and then I can bind this one to reflect the number of cats in the zone 4, or if other objects are tracked, the number of dogs in zone 4 as well, or another counter. So these are specifically reserved for the current state of the zone, for queue tracking, for example, for the number of customers in the queue or the cars in the queue. And then a regular counter, like, oh, that's weird. Maybe I need to save it first. Never mind, I'm going to troubleshoot it later. And then there is this other thing called the regular counter. So a new counter, here it is. So this one is the same as creating the counter from events and actions. So counters in events and actions, they are here. And these are like system-wide counters for counting everything, and you can use them for counting objects from different sources, from different channels. So for example, if you have a shop and it has 2 entrances, then you can have 2 cameras counting incoming people on both, and both cameras will increment the same counter, and thus you will have like a total, so that you don't have to sum them.
How would you do that? How would you do that? That sounds good. I'm not sure I set it up before. How would you do the summing up if you have 2 metadata sources?
Yeah, so first I need to create a counter here, like a regular counter, and I say, okay, total customers, for example, okay, and assign it to some server where my sources are. So the source cameras must be on the same server. This is one requirement. Total customers. Then I go to a channel. So let me take this channel, the same channel, for example, and I'm gonna say, so let me create like a line. So never mind the cat. So let's imagine this one is the line for counting customers, and this line has a rule. And if it's crossed in the direction A, B from left to right, then it means it's an incoming customer. So like this, probably. So it's they are coming in, and we're gonna track cats in this case. And save. And then let me take another cat. Another
cat.
Another cat, probably. Yeah, maybe I have some kind of. Maybe this one has people or something. Yeah, so this one already had some. So it also has a line. So let's pretend this is another entrance, and if the direction also AB is crossed, so this one is BA, and I need a new one, AB. So this one is a customer in, and the class is going to be person this time. Okay, and apply, and then go to rules, and so this one is customer in, is this one, and I have this counter customer, total customers, right? Increment. So this is one rule, and
I see. It makes sense now. Okay.
Okay, I didn't. Maybe I didn't say this.
I think it makes sense because I haven't done it before. I think it's good.
So I simply use another event.
And also do increment, and they will both sort of
yes. I'm not sure. Maybe it's this one, or yeah. And I use another event from another camera. So you see, these are two different cameras. So this one is called VCA parking and VCA test, and they both increment the same counter.
Yeah, makes sense. Oh, that's quite nice.
Yeah, and it's not obligatory to do this even with the Evo video analytics. If you do have like some events from cameras like DAWA or something, you can even use like different kinds of cameras, different models, different brands to trigger those events and to count the overall number of customers. So that's what we can do. And
makes sense.
And so let's switch to my new favorite topic, the CrossLink.
CrossLink, yes. Oh my God, I'm looking forward to this.
So sit down, refresh your popcorn, because we're moving to CrossLinks. So CrossLinks is a generic name for interactive content in Evo. And so that's a separate license, and that's not a question to me. How much does that cost, etc., etc. That's a question to our sales. Don't please don't ask me that. There are two types of CrossLink license. One is basic, one is advanced. The basic one means that the interactive contents can be manipulated, and the advanced license means that it can be both manipulated and recorded. In terms of architecture, it means that the basic goes directly to the client, and the advanced one goes through the server. So it's like a proper device on the Evo side, and in that case, that allows us to record it. How it looks from the operator's side. So in Evo interface, there is this new section here in the resources pane. It's called web pages, and these web pages, that's a direct web page. It means it goes directly from the configured source to the client application. And multiple clients can use that page simultaneously, and they will go, so these sessions go independently. So these are like proper browser sessions, like if you open this in the web browser. So YouTube is like not the very best example. So I'm gonna tell you at once that there is it is like quite a basic implementation, so that's not a fully featured browser. So if you start playing the YouTube videos in there, so the media rich contents, it doesn't really play so good because like the frame rate limitations and etc. etc. So of course the primary aim for this is an integration or integration with other systems. But I would like to learn more about the actual cases where this is required, because because showing YouTube is fun.
Right. We've had access to this for a while, actually, and we do present it a lot, that it's very beneficial, because here, if you have some system, alarm system, if you have any system, fire protection system that has a web interface, you can display it. So this is quite nice. And with web interfaces, you can build little websites with operating procedures. So for example, if there is some theft or something, if the new security manager does not know what to do, the new security operator, they can just click some internal website and operate this and know what to do step by step. So we see a big potential just in that web page scenario. As I said, for displaying web interfaces, especially of some third-party devices.
Absolutely, yeah, that sounds nice.
I think one question Mateusz was thinking about, I remember, is about plugins. If we, for example, connect, let's say to some device that has a plugin, let's say a Dahua camera that has a plugin, right? How would that work? I don't think it would work in this situation.
Yes,
Would it?
that's a very important moment here. And so both those web pages and the web page devices, they have security limitations. So one limitation is that we don't allow navigating away from the base domain. I'm going to show you the configuration side, and I'm going to explain that too. So, and another point is that we don't allow any kind of like copy pasting or pop-ups or downloads,
Makes sense. So it's
because
just
that would
purely
be
for
a
operation. Yeah.
huge security breach.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
nice.
sorry, not sorry.
No, that's good. Actually, I didn't think about it, but that's a good point. That's a very good point.
These are regular web pages, and you already know how to set them up. So there's a special section in console here in web pages. It's visible even if you don't have the license, but if there is no license, it's gonna there will be a dialog box saying like, please purchase CrossLink or something, and you just go ahead and add new pages. So the title and the address. And if there's a specific domain here, like for example, I'm using wiki here, and I will be able to browse anything that's inside wikipedia.org, and I will be perfectly able to switch between like lower level domains like plwikipedia.org or lvwikipedia.org. Like lower level domains are allowed, but I won't be able to navigate away to a different domain. So for example, they have links to Wiktionary here or Wikinews here, and I won't be able to navigate away to Wikinews. And the errors go here. So if you're unable to click something, there's a big chance that there's an attempt to navigate away from the base domain. So that's also, due to security reasons, is currently prohibited. We're gonna look at the feedback. So probably maybe there's a chance we can we will offer the user to define the list of legitimate domains which can be allowed to navigate to, but it's
Nice idea.
It's just an idea I've just
For
generated.
now, it's great already as it is. But yeah, we can of course always think out of this.
So we always need to balance to keep the cybersecurity in mind in this case. So the second type is CrossLink Advanced in terms of license, and in terms of Evo, that's interactive devices with the channels attached to them. So I have a couple right here. So when you create those devices, there's a new section here. It's called CrossLink, and there are two types: interactive URL and interactive desktop, remote desktop. So the first one is similar to that web page, and the difference being that you can record this and with the same limitations and all the stuff. So this is an interactive YouTube, and so the main idea is that you have an overlay control that enables you to grab the remote control. So I hope the icon is pretty straightforward. So that's used somewhere in. It suggests that you can have control over something, and there we go. So you have the interactive contents, and you can also manipulate in the same way. So probably an important moment among these two direct web pages and web page devices. Only direct web pages do have sound. So those devices don't have sound, don't have audio at this moment. So that's just in case if you want to use this feature for some digital signage or something, just keep in mind that only direct web pages will have audio also. And then so that's web pages, so that's web content. And another one
this is actually very nice that you can record it. I think also, Mateusz, you were asking about it, if we can record, like let's say the window with the SCADA system. So it's recorded and you can see in live, I mean in playback, synchronized, what was showing in the SCADA system and what was happening, from camera.
Yes. And also this means that once this is a device, it goes through the server. Then it also means that there is like one session, and if different users try to navigate away, they will have like a control conflict, right? And we use existing permissions to handle that. We use PTZ permissions, so that's not a very straightforward point. But if you take some no, it's the wrong one. YouTube. So this one, YouTube. So it has a view permission. So that's a web page. And sorry, it's the wrong server. I should have it right here. So my interactive web page device, channel, it will have the permission to control PTZ. So this will be the permission for any user to control this interactive device from the Evo monitor side. And just like we have PTZ permission levels for PTZ cameras, so ranging from 0 to 10, this PTZ priority that every user has, it will be used to determine which user gets access first.
That makes sense. That's nice.
Yeah. And so this the second type of CrossLink Advanced is the ability to.
About the web pages, can we use a pop-up window, for example?
No, we cannot, right? The pop-ups.
You mean remote web pop-ups? No. So anything that is
No, not pop-ups in the web page. It's like just like with the right. If there is some kind of alarm, you can make the change the view and show the camera. So
yes, of course, you can use these advanced CrossLink channels for this. So these ones. the ones which are in the channel section, in the video channels, those ones which are recorded. So because we can only pop up channels, right? And those recorded ones, we can pop them up. All right. We can't do that with direct web pages. So yeah, that's a good point. Probably I should include it into the documentation as well. And so this second type is not about web pages, but it's about workstations. So behind the scenes, there's VNC. So basically, this is a VNC client. And what you need to do to enable this connection, when you create this kind of device, you need to pre-install the VNC server on the remote side. You can use like any. You can use tight VNC or real VNC or ultra VNC or whatever, or the built-in VNC server the Mac devices have on them, and of course you can use that on like any kind of operating system where VNC server runs. So another big advantage of this technology is that it is not limited to Windows anymore. So in this case, we don't only cross-link non-integrated platforms, but we also cross-link different operating systems. And I saw that the tight VNC or other VNC server can run on like smaller devices, like even Raspberry Pi. And so that means probably you can control a Raspberry Pi from here. But I haven't tested that myself. And in this case, I have an example of my like regular Windows computer. And so once you grab the control, it's going to have the same like absolutely the same style of tight VNC connection. And so like feel this. So you can control any workstation, any pre-configured workstation right from the Evo monitor, like any workstation. And this gives us a remote control of remote machines running, I don't know, Zabbix or something. And the second thing is that we can record operators' workstations at a predefined frame rate to track the user actions, to track whatever has been happening on remote systems. And of course, this is the gateway to other softwares, to I don't know, here's a Vigilant and like anything running on their remote computer.
And here also, if we disable control PTZ for some user, he can only view and he cannot click, right?
Yes, that should be it.
That's nice. I'm really curious about how we could connect events with this. I'm just thinking out loud. If there is any way to, have some kind of integration, like if something happens there, we have some events. I wonder if there are any triggers at this point.
At this point, not. No specific events, but it is like a big area for investigation. What kind of events we could possibly do. At this point, I guess I haven't tested it myself, but it's not a wild guess. It's a logical deduction that we should be able to use the motion detection on that.
That's what I was thinking too. Yeah.
Yeah. So at least you will know. That so you can of course that's server side motion detection, so you can set it up to high performance to save the Evo server resources, but at least you will know when the remote user initiated their day maybe or something. So the very least you can use this motion detection, but we don't have any specific video analytics for that, because we need to think ahead then what specific kind of changes in the video stream can happen. And another side of this is that maybe the remote VNC server can provide some kind of events, and then we also need to explore which ones. And speaking of the settings,
I was thinking about the SNMP because right now we can use like other way around, right?
yeah,
Luxriot can set up like SNMP, some kind of trigger, and some monitoring software can just receive it. But maybe the
yeah,
other
but
way
it
around.
is not related to this CrossLink integration. No way. So it's a question of whether we can include an SNMP manager in the Evo software, and traditionally we don't. So speaking of the behind-the-scenes configuration for crosslinks, you will have like all the explanations in the user manuals, of course. So I wanted to spend some time on this because it's not very straightforward. So this here in the crosslink configuration, the channel configuration, control the output area. So that remote machine of mine, it actually has two monitors. It has two displays. And which means it's not very convenient for me to do the remote control in here. But of course, I can probably use the no. So the zoom is not preserved for the control, so it's not very convenient, right? And so what I can do is limit this in console. So I say, okay, let's make it the first monitor. So the first monitor goes from the 0, 0 coordinates that I want half width. And that's the way to have it like in half. So the first monitor only. And it's also the same with the second monitor. I just start with the half X coordinate. And then I'll have the second monitor cropped. So that's the way to handle this with multi-display machines. So that's a bit more, complicated than simple web pages. But this gives me the opportunity to control like any number of remote web pages actually. So if this is some kind of server, and then I can just go ahead, open the web browser, and use the and connect to cameras. And there are your questions for new tabs and plugin downloads. So in here, I should be perfectly able to like do anything that I can do on remote machine, including running the Internet Explorer and connecting to any kind of camera that requires a plugin in order to allow the remote control.
In the current version that we are testing, I don't know if it's a bug or something, but if you do something on the web page and then you, for example, double click, just change the view or something like this, the progress, let's say, of the web page is lost. It's
yes.
like refreshed every time you just switch the view. Is it still?
Yes, it's the case. It's the case with the direct web pages, with those in the web pages section. So with the basic crosslink, that's been done on purpose. So every time you close it, that means you don't want to work with this anymore. But that shouldn't be the case if you just use a multi-camera layout. Let's check this. So if I have the web page as a part of the layout, if I double click it to work with it, and I navigate away, and then I double click it to go back, and then work with it with other cameras in the same view, then the web page state will be preserved in this case. But if I close it and then I reopen it, then it's going to be like refreshed, brought back.
Really?
So
Wait,
this is how it works at this point. Also, maybe an idea for next releases, maybe we could optimize this by adding some kind of option for user, whether they want to preserve the state or not. But this also is the same mechanism that allows us to keep simultaneous sessions. So we don't keep the state, we simply output this contents. However, this is not the case with interactive channels. So this is the advanced CrossLink license. So this one, when this is recorded and where you have a like
it goes through a server instead of client.
It goes through the server, and the server keeps the state. And if I navigate away, and if I switch to a different one, Say, okay, I don't like all this
YouTube
advertisements.
is not
So
the
yeah,
best.
so in this case, you
Yeah.
can see that
Okay.
I continue watching where I left off on that advertisement.
Mateusz, that answers your question, I think, yeah? Does this solve the issue?
Yeah, that will solve the issue.
That's also the difference between the two drivers, between the two features, the basic and advanced.
Okay, okay.
Okay. One more thing that was on my list, and I haven't mentioned this. Related to facial recognition. So we've released a newer version of facial recognition by this time, and it doesn't have any like major upgrades, but it does have an option for localization now. So far it's only Russian, but the important thing is that we've changed the internals of the facial recognition so that it can be localized to any language now. Then we also added an optimized mass enrollment. There is a special way now to add like a large number of subjects. So subject import is now possible out of the folder structure. And the third thing, we've also added a possibility, is going to be added in 1.20. We will add a possibility to import the subjects from the monitor application. I don't think it's ready yet, but it should be. How it will work is that you will select an unknown face in here, and then you will add the subject in here.